going on, everybody? I'm back again with another video, and I'm in one of my favorite neighborhoods in Brooklyn, New York, which is Fort Greene. This is actually part of Fort Greene, but this is like the newer version because they're developing high-rise buildings. But I was near the neighborhood the other days, and I was walking around. I thought I would do like an update video to see what's going on. You know, the neighborhood's really famous for its tree-lined streets, the beautiful architecture, the brownstones, you know, nice-looking paved roads. You know, it's a neighborhood that's seen some drastic changes throughout the years. So we're gonna stroll around the neighborhood to see what's going on. So without further ado, join me. This is like the newer version. It blows my mind every time I come and I see a new development that has popped up pretty fast here and over here. I tell you, Brooklyn could be a city on its own. If it was to be a city on its own, it would be one of the top 10 most popular cities in the United States. I think it's over 2.6 or 2.5 million people that live around here. But now I'm gonna make it to a South Portland Street to walk around where the Brownstones are, and then stroll around between Lafayette and Fulton Street to see what are the vibes over there. To see a new development and the famous Brooklyn Tower. Then I'm making it over here over DeKalb Avenue, where they got the famous, the park, Fort Greene Park, but I'll probably leave that for last. I'm just gonna walk towards South Portland Street and merge into the Brownstones and walk around the residential area. Here comes the ambulance. You know, here you see a lot of beds. So there's a hospital here, so it might explain why you see the ambulance coming out. And if you look at my right, you're gonna start seeing how nice the roads are. But it's like if you go a little bit more towards where the park is. Got a couple of delis over here. Over here you can start seeing how beautiful the street is. But almost all the streets look like this. And today the weather is lovely. You know, the summers in here, they could be super hot and humid, but the good thing is it lasts a week, maybe a few weeks, and the heat wave comes, but then it's just normal like this, not hot, not cold, and perfect. This over here is one of the largest, if not the largest, high school in New York City. I forgot the name of it. I think it's Brooklyn Tech High School. It's a massive building that takes over. This is Fort Greene Park, which I filmed there. I live streamed there a few times, but we're gonna leave that party for last, like the grand finale. Now we're just gonna focus on the residential streets that Fort Greene has to offer me. And right next to the high school, this is what you get. Beautiful brownstone buildings. This is awesome. Gotta tell you, I'm a little bit jealous of the students out here in New York. You know, like they get to study and be surrounded by architecture like this. Even though I know times has changed throughout the decades and neighborhoods used to be rougher, but like one thing, if you guys know about me, I'm a fan of hip hop, old school, and I feel a little jealous for the people who grew up around that era, like in the 80s and the 90s, man. You know, but even though I didn't live around here or anything, I used to watch, you know, music videos from New York when I was growing up back home, so it's just an honor for me to be around here and admire that, you know. Well, they even got like a local private park, I guess, for the community that they maintain it right here. This is nice. Now I made it to South Portland Street, which is actually probably one of the nicest streets in this area, and I can see it from a distance with the trees and everything. So let's stroll around so you can see the architecture happening over here. This is it here. You can see what I'm talking about. Look how beautiful the street is. Peaceful and gorgeous with architecture and the trees combined together. You know, a lot of people, they go to Brooklyn Heights, but I think I like this area better. Because it got like a local park, you know, the streets are a little bit more wider. Like I tell you, I could come to these neighborhoods every day and never get bored of it. It's like I like to call it like an urban oasis. You know, I remember like a kid growing up and watching like the streets of New York, and now being able to walk the streets over here, you know, it's just actually awesome, man. The neighborhood keeps going, and actually it smells pretty good. It's also a pretty bikeable neighborhood. But I'm gonna walk straight towards Fulton Street. You know, I've covered Fulton Street in the downtown area, and it's a different vibe from over here, but you can see what I'm surrounded by. They literally gentrify the hell out of this neighborhood. But it's happening literally like in all over Brooklyn, New York. So block here is Lafayette Street, which is kind of like a main street, but I'm gonna go one more block down where it's Fulton Street. There's another main street that merges. And I walk to the end and then turn back to Lafayette to see what are the vibes. This over here is Lafayette Street. So it's semi-main street, but we're gonna go one block ahead and it's Fulton Street. It's actually pretty nice to look at. I like about all these neighborhoods that they connect together. You can get through one neighborhood of Brooklyn to another one walking, you know, without taking a train. And it's not too far from the Barclays Center, so that's one thing that I love about here. And mostly New York City in general, like all the neighborhoods are literally like walkable. So one block ahead of me is the G train, then over here is the C train. But I want to show you this mural that I love looking at it. Comandante Biggie right here in this intersection. So this is a Biggie mural, but not the one that you see in Bed-Stuy. And if you go on the other side, it'll say Spread Love the Brooklyn Way. So I'm gonna cross the street just to show you what it looks like on the other side. And this over here is Fulton Street. Pretty different from the downtown Brooklyn side, but you see they got business. Then once I pass this truck, I can show you the front part of this business here. Spread Love the Brooklyn Way. I love it out here. So it seems like they develop more in the neighborhood till I remember. Like every time I come, I see like new business opening, but it's happening all over Brooklyn, especially when you go by Flatbush Avenue towards the Barclays Center, you'll see a lot of business. And I guess it's helpful for when they do concerts and games in the Barclays Center so people can literally just hang out in the spot. Now, ahead of me should be a little local park, but it seems like they're literally renovating it right by the Lafayette station and the C train line. C train line literally runs local over here, Brooklyn. Then you can take the A train line. There's this person that goes all the way to Far Rockaway or Olson Park. So here you get it, they're renovating this little tiny local park. But I guess it's a good thing that they fixed it since they're literally changing the whole neighborhood. You can see the streets are actually well paved. Then we're also on the borderline of another cool neighborhood that I covered before the summertime, Clinton Hill. Clinton Hill is literally like 2 blocks from here, and it's also like a really nice neighborhood, just like this one, like Fort Greene. You can walk around, then they got the beautiful tree-lined streets, you know, with the brownstones. I was over there the other days because I was in a block party, and then I was walking back here, and I noticed how beautiful the streets are, so I'm like, I gotta come back to make this video, and I'm gonna go to the other side, because it seems like they block up the whole block. I'm just trying to merge towards the other side of the neighborhood to show you the other side where the streets are. Here you can see downtown Brooklyn, the tall buildings. Like I said, years ago, this was not here. Maybe a couple of high-rise buildings, but now it looks a lot like Manhattan right here. And here's the C train. So you can take the subway line, you know, pretty accessible to get around the neighborhood and get to Manhattan from right here. Then they got a deli and a shop in the corner, but I could tell it's one of those, I don't know, I guess organic gentrified joints. Also, Spike Lee owns a production company in this neighborhood. We're gonna make it there later, and I'm gonna show you where it is. I made it here to Adelphi Street, but this is a nice street, and like in a block, and the other side is the other neighborhood. But I'm gonna make it back to Lafayette Street and make it to South Elliott Street to show you the production building of Spike Lee. As you can see, beautiful trees covering up the streets and architecture. This over here is not brownstones, but they still look pretty nice. Let me just stand like almost like in the middle of the street so you can have an idea. Then at the end is the Fort Greene Park. That's actually Lafayette, but yeah. I was literally walking this area the other days. And when I was walking there, it was dark, but it was like peaceful. Like, you wouldn't believe that you're in Brooklyn because not too far is the downtown area where it's pretty busy. But it proves it, like if you detour a little bit outside the busy areas, you could get really nice, quiet residential streets like this. So, and it's possible throughout all the boroughs around New York City. So, loving this over here. And then in the corner, it looks like some townhouses. So I'm gonna get a little close up. This over here is kind of giving me the vibes of spring, like all these things falling down from the trees. Thankfully, I'm not allergic to it. But one of the things I don't like about the spring is, you know, like the pollen and all of that. I just want to show you like the townhouses right here. This one, they're pretty different from the other ones. They look pretty cool, actually. But I gotta tell you, my craziest pollen experience was when I was in Erevan in Armenia. Like, it was during the spring season, and you could literally, when I was walking, it was a day that was super windy, you could literally see like all the pollen coming out of the leaves, and everybody was like literally coughing and sneezing, and I had that attack a while ago. But yeah, and thinking about it, some of the streets here in Brooklyn, they're reminding me of the capital city of Erevan. You know, they're not like exactly the same, but like the old architecture and the trees surrounding the streets is kind of giving me that vibe. Like I said, I'm really missing Armenia, so I can't really wait to go back and film more of that beautiful country. We are in Lafayette Street. Beautiful street, and it has a bike lane. Like I said, I'm gonna make it towards South Elliott Street so we can see the building Spike Lee. You know, I guess you guys are a fan of his productions, and you know, one of my favorite movies that he had was Do the Right Thing, which I filmed, the street where they filmed it right in Bed-Stuy. You know, pretty iconic. But yeah, so even here in Lafayette Street, you can see how beautiful it is with this architecture and then the trees covering up the block. And then usually when you see the sign of the streets Reading and Brown, it's because it's usually historic district, but so I'm pretty sure in the little top of the corner it says Fort Greene Historic District. Let me show you the angle of this street. See, that's a bike lane, and then the trees literally covering up the block. And then I love how they have like a little front yard in this buildings, surrounded by trees. Let's walk a few blocks ahead to make it towards that street. Then I'm gonna walk the other side behind Fort Greene Park, and then we're gonna go inside the park and wrap up the video over there. Like I say, lovely weather, nice neighborhood. One of my favorite neighborhoods, so I thought I would come back here and do like a little update in this neighborhood in Brooklyn, New York. It's always really fun to blog in New York City, especially during the summer season. And this is a prime example that New York City has a lot of trees, because I see a lot of people complaining that there's not really much trees. But probably you've seen the pictures during the winter season when the leaves are up, but here you see that I'm walking literally under a ton of trees. So if you go throughout the whole neighborhood, it's literally surrounded by trees all over New York City. So some of the streets are resembling a little bit of Philadelphia, like in the older part, you know, with the architecture. And this is the other side of Lafayette. You can see they got a couple of business, but a block ahead of me is Elliott Street. So you can see the high-rise buildings of downtown Brooklyn ahead of me. They got like a coffee joint here, Blank Street Coffee. If you guys are a fan of coffee or you make coffee content, I think in New York City you're not gonna run out of ideas, because there's tons and tons of coffee shops throughout the borough. So I think it's a good place to be for you to make, you know, content about coffee. And then here we are. So far I'm seeing something that's a little bit political, so I'm gonna see if I can not show that, but I want to show you where his joint is. Over here, too bad this truck is over here, but you can see Spike Lee, Radio Raheem. I love that movie, classic. 1969, 1970, the New York Knicks champions. Here you got it, you know, even though it's been so long since day one, I'm a huge fan of New York Knicks. And then this is it, like the building inside. You can see a huge like stash of Radio Raheem. Let me see. Yeah. That was a really iconic character right there. And I think that's what Michael Jordan, you can't see it clearly, but Michael Jordan was Spike Lee, so yeah. Now one thing about me, I think only when I was a kid, but other than that, I've never owned a jersey, a basketball jersey. So since I'm gonna be leaving New York and be based abroad, I think one thing I'm gonna get is I'm gonna get a New York Knicks jersey. Even though they lost, but you know, bring a piece of New York with me tours abroad in Asia. Oh, look at this building. Blue, my favorite color, then it has like a different style of architecture right here. And they got construction workers over there fixing the area. Oh wow, this is nice, it's cute. Look at this. And this is the same street where I was showing you guys the biggest high school in New York, which is right here, Brooklyn Tech. So right now the street is shut because they're renovating over here, so it's good for me because now I can show you the high school to my left. I'm telling you, in this city, there's no excuse to be lazy. Like, there's always people grinding. This city, you walk around no matter what block, and you get inspiration to, I don't know, whatever dreams you have, grind hard. I tell you. Look at it, see, it's like a multi-level building. This is the high school, but it's massive. It keeps going all the way here. Let me see if I can count at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, at least 7 or 8 floors, and not just like a little bit, like pretty long. So wow, my high school back home only had 2 floors. It wasn't really that big of a high school too. It had, I think it only had like 600 students. This one must have like thousands and thousands of students. But of course, this is New York, you know, it's very high density over here, so it makes sense that they have thousands of students piled up in a building. This is the other side of the Cobb Avenue, right behind the park. I don't think I ever walked this area, but checking it out so far, looks really cool. Really love how they preserve this neighborhood and like the reddish colors of the buildings, like around here. There's a little local park over here. But I can tell you, every block over here is just pretty pleasant to walk. So I'm gonna do one more block and then make it towards the other side. Like I say, this is actually my first time walking around here. Look, they got brownstones, they got like a basketball court. It says Regal Hearts. I guess maybe they do something for the Brooklyn Nets, which years ago used to belong to Jersey. Now it's part of Brooklyn. Like I say, a lot of neighborhoods look alike. Then like within a block, ahead is Clinton Hill, which is also a really cool neighborhood out here in Brooklyn, served by the C train. That's probably like the closest train they got around here. But it's pretty nice and walkable. But I think if you live around here, a good thing to get around, a good way to get around is having a bike, an e-scooter, you know. I think it's a really fun way to explore the city. This is Claremont Avenue. I never walk around here, then look. Beautiful. Looks like a townhouse, but I think there's multiple units in the inside. And then to my right is, of course, the brownstone buildings, which really highlights architecture in Brooklyn, New York. And over here they got like a local playground. But due to there being kids, I'd rather not point the camera over that way. So there's actually a public pool that I just passed to the left. And then a school over here, and ahead of me should be Willoughby Avenue, which I'm gonna make a left, and it will take me straight towards Fort Greene Park. And that's where I'm probably gonna wrap up my video and do a grand finale. Like I said, I push it a little bit forward and I walk around this area, which I've never been in this block. But so far it's pretty nice, like I said, but it would take me forever to explore every single block in the city, you know. It's just a massive, massive metropolis right here in the eastern coast of the United States. Here I'm approaching Willoughby. And usually they try to turn it into pedestrian where I think people could walk around the streets. So like there's like some barricades there that says do not enter. I guess only a few cars are parked. So maybe it's only for the residents. You know, here's like a peaceful area, you know. Then like I said, they got even if the street is small, they have a bike lane right here. So, you know, New York City really does a good job in terms of biking and dividing the pedestrian and the cars. Here you got more of the architecture. The light is in my favor. Even more throughout here, and like 2 more blocks, I should be entering Fort Greene Park. Then over here, they made a pedestrian. There's a barricade that blocks the street. You can see there's a bike lane right here. And the one thing I just remember, for the first time, I think they did like 22 miles of pedestrian area in Manhattan. They do it, I think, Sunday from 7 in the morning till 3 o'clock. So if it keeps going, I'm probably gonna see if I can catch that and ride my bike around and blog it. You can see, I think more streets should turn pedestrian because it gives it like a good vibe. And then ahead of me is the park. So this area is actually nicer than going throughout DeKalb Avenue. Here's a street, and then over here is Fort Greene Park. So we're gonna make it inside the park. Now here I am entering the urban oasis. Famous Fort Greene Park. You can see how they maintain the plants over here. And it's literally like a hill that goes all the way up. They got different designated areas. They got restrooms, you know, they got like a little plaza in the middle with some stairs. So it's a park that literally has it all. You can see how nice it is. There's somebody reading their book in peace. Like I said, the weather's perfect today, and plus all these trees cover up and gives you like a nice shade. But yeah, there's a sign that says no pets allowed. See volunteers, gardeners at work. So I guess people volunteer and they maintain, you know, the park pretty beautiful. So it's a perfect park for you to do anything. Bring your family, your friends, hang out, you know, bring your pets. And this is the central icon right here in the center of this park. You can start seeing the skyline of downtown Brooklyn. And ahead of me is like the stairs, which I like to call it the Rocky Stairs of Brooklyn. Because it kind of looks like those Rocky Stairs by Philadelphia. You know, you could do it up and down, do exercise. I'm gonna walk ahead and show you how steep down they go. Not super, super high down, but you know, you have an idea of what I'm talking about. This is it. See, it literally goes down there. Down there, there's even more on the other side. There's also like a playground, I think, on the other side. And then it shows you, it takes you to the other part of Fort Greene where the PJs are. Also, they do a famous block party here, Soul Summit, which I mentioned it many times. And when you come during that season over here, it's jam-packed with people. Like, as big as this park is, it's super, super crowded. So yeah, I've been a few times and it was so crowded I had to walk out, but you know, it gives you an idea of what this park has to offer. But that was the end of my video exploring Fort Greene here in Brooklyn, New York. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for more. Be safe out there, everybody. God bless y'all, and peace.